The void between stars has always been humanity's greatest fear and final frontier. We conquered mountains, tamed oceans, and colonized our nearest planetary neighbors, but the crushing emptiness beyond our solar system remained an impenetrable barrier, until desperation forced our hand. I was there when it all began. Not as anyone important, mind you, just a systems technician on the UES Harbinger, the first vessel equipped with the experimental void drive. My name is Thomas Chen, and I'm recording this account because someone should know the truth about how humanity became the most feared species in known space. It started, as most catastrophes do, with the best intentions. The Arcturus incident changed everything. When the first alien delegation arrived at our outpost on Mars, humanity rejoiced. We weren't alone in the universe. The 7-foot-tall, crystalline beings called themselves the Lyraxian Collective, and they spoke of a prosperous galactic community waiting to welcome us. Their translators worked perfectly, their ships defied our understanding of physics, and their demeanor was nothing but gracious. That graciousness lasted exactly 6 Earth months. The attack came without warning. 300 Lyraxian warships appeared in Earth orbit, their weapons already charging. They broadcast a single message across all frequencies. Humanity has been judged unworthy of ascension. Judgment is extinction. Billions died in the first week. Major cities vanished in flashes of light that could be seen from orbit. The remaining governments pooled resources and evacuated who they could to underground facilities, but everyone knew it was just postponing the inevitable. Then Professor Sarah Blackwood changed human history with 4 words. I can save us. Blackwood had been studying ancient physics principles from data recovered in the Antarctic ruins discovered in 2097. Her team had theorized that space wasn't truly empty. It was filled with what she called void energy, a fundamental force that connected everything in the universe. If harnessed, this energy could theoretically allow travel between any 2 points instantaneously. The remaining military leaders gave her everything she needed. 3 months later, deep in a mountain facility in what used to be Colorado, the first void drive prototype was activated. I still remember watching the feed as the basketball-sized device pulled darkness from nowhere, creating a sphere of absolute black that seemed to devour light itself. "This is how we'll fight back," she said to the camera. "They control space. We'll control what lies between." Most of the top brass thought it was just an exotic FTL system, a way to evacuate Earth's survivors or perhaps launch surprise attacks. None of them understood what Blackwood had truly created, none except Admiral Valina Reeves. "We're not running," she announced during the strategy meeting I was inexplicably invited to. "We're going to make them regret ever finding Earth." The Void Dark battle fleet was constructed in secret lunar facilities. 12 ships built around Blackwood's technology. They weren't large. Resources were scarce, but they didn't need to be. Each carried a complement of enhanced soldiers and enough weaponry to level a city. But their true power lay in the void drives themselves. I was assigned to the Harbinger, the flagship, under Captain James Sullivan, a grim man with hollow eyes who had watched his family die when Sydney was vaporized. He rarely spoke except to issue orders, but when he did, everyone listened. "The void drive isn't just propulsion," Blackwood explained during our pre-mission briefing. "It creates a field that temporarily places the ship partially outside normal spacetime. Conventional weapons will pass through you. You'll appear as nothing more than a shadow on their sensors, if they can detect you at all." What she didn't mention then, what I would learn later, was what happened to those caught in the wake of a void drive ship. The energies it channeled didn't just bend physics, they rewrote it locally. Our first engagement came 4 days after launch. The Lyraxian destroyer orbiting what remained of New Delhi. The Harbinger emerged from void space less than a kilometer from the alien vessel, appearing like a patch of moving darkness against the stars. "Weapons free," Sullivan ordered, his voice flat as ever. We fired conventional railguns first. Nothing fancy, just tungsten rods accelerated to near-light speed. They tore through the Lyraxian shields like they weren't there. Their return fire passed harmlessly through us as we shifted partially into void space. Then Sullivan gave the order I'll never forget. Activate the null cascade. Lieutenant Kira Nakamura, our tactical officer, hesitated for just a moment before executing the command. A sphere of absolute darkness expanded from our ship, engulfing the Laraxian vessel. When it receded seconds later, the alien ship remained intact, but completely powerless, drifting. What just happened? I asked the nearest officer. Void energy negates normal energy, she replied without looking away from her console. We just erased every electronic system on their ship. The fleet's success was immediate and total. Within 2 months, we had destroyed or disabled every Laraxian vessel in Earth orbit. Within 6, we had tracked their retreat to their homeworld and delivered our response. I wasn't on the bridge when Admiral Reeves gave the order to deploy the Void Seed against the Laraxian homeworld, but I felt the ship shudder as the device, a more powerful variant of our drive, was launched. From the observation deck, I watched as a pinprick of darkness touched the blue-green planet below. The darkness spread like spilled ink, covering continents in minutes. "What's happening down there?" asked a young ensign beside me. An older security officer answered, his voice heavy. "Physics is breaking down. Atomic bonds are being selectively negated." "You mean they're dying?" "No," the officer replied. "They're being unmade." That was the beginning. After the Laraxians, the galactic community that had stood by and allowed the attack on Earth discovered what humanity was capable of. Some tried diplomacy. Others attacked preemptively. It made no difference. The Void Dark battle fleet grew from 12 ships to 50, then hundreds. Earth rebuilt, expanding throughout our solar system and beyond. We developed technologies that made the Void Drive look primitive by comparison. Weapons that could erase matter from existence. Defenses that made our ships virtually invulnerable. We became the monsters we had fought. And now, as I record this from a remote outpost on the edge of what used to be called the Andromeda Galaxy, I can't help but wonder if Blackwood knew what she was unleashing. If Admiral Reeves understood that by saving humanity, she was condemning countless other species, the Void Dark battle fleet continues its expansion. The last reports indicated they had developed something called the negation wave, a void energy pulse that could sterilize entire sectors of space instantaneously. I deserted 3 years ago, unable to watch any longer. They'll find me eventually. The fleet doesn't tolerate witnesses, especially not ones who know the truth about what we've become. But someone needs to know. Someone needs to understand. We didn't just survive extinction. We mastered it. They've been hiding on this remote outpost for 3 years, 4 months, and 16 days. The locals here, 6 limbed beings who call themselves the Vesh, have no idea what humanity has become. They're primitive by galactic standards, having just achieved rudimentary space travel within their own system. Too insignificant to attract the fleet's attention. At least for now. They took me in when my escape pod crashed in their northern continent. They think I'm a traitor whose ship malfunctioned. The lie keeps me alive, and it keeps them safe. Knowledge of humanity is a death sentence these days. The memories haunt me most at night, when this planet's 3 moons align and cast strange, overlapping shadows across the landscape. Shadows that remind me too much of void space ruptures. I still remember the day when Admiral Reeves revealed the true scope of her vision. It was after the Laraxian homeworld operation, during what the crew called the victory celebration. There was no actual celebration, just the officers gathered in the Harbinger's mess hall, drinking synthesized alcohol in silence. The weight of what we'd done hung over everyone. "We didn't just win a battle today," Reeves said, standing suddenly. Her uniform was immaculate as always, not a single gray hair out of place. "We've changed the equation permanently." Captain Sullivan raised an eyebrow. "The Laraxians are finished, Admiral. Mission accomplished." The Laraxians were just the beginning. She activated the holographic display in the center of the table. A 3-dimensional map of the galaxy appeared, with dozens of systems highlighted in red. These are all species that either participated in or sanctioned the attack on Earth. Dr. Blackwood, who rarely joined military gatherings, spoke up from the corner. The void drive was meant as a defensive technology, Helena. A way to escape, to hide, not to unleash this kind of destruction. They tried to exterminate us, Sarah. Reeves' voice remained calm, but her eyes burned with an intensity I'd never seen before. Every single one of these civilizations decided humanity wasn't worth saving. Some even provided ships for the attack fleet. So we become the monsters they feared we would be. Blackwood asked. Reeves smiled thinly. We become what we need to be to ensure humanity's survival. Forever. That was when Lieutenant Nakamura stood up. I'd always admired her. Brilliant tactical mind, unshakable under pressure. But that night, I saw something break in her. I didn't sign up for genocide, she said quietly. The room went silent. Challenging Admiral Reeves wasn't something anyone did, especially not after what we'd witnessed her order. You signed up to protect Earth, Lieutenant, Reeves replied. That's exactly what we're doing. With respect, Admiral, Earth is safe. The Laraxians are destroyed. We've proven our point. Reeves walked slowly around the table until she stood directly in front of Nakamura. Despite being shorter, the Admiral somehow seemed to loom over her. Earth will never be safe until every species capable of threatening us understands the consequence of doing so, she said. The galaxy tried to erase us. Now they'll learn that humanity cannot be erased. The next day, Nakamura was gone, transferred to a research vessel heading back to Earth. Or so we were told. I never saw her again. The fleet expanded rapidly after that. I was promoted from systems technician to engineering officer as more ships were built. The new vessels were larger, more powerful, incorporating refinements to the void drive technology that Dr. Blackwood had developed under increasingly direct military supervision. There were rumors that she had been placed under house arrest after the Laraxian operation, forced to continue her research against her will. Captain Sullivan dismissed these as speculation, but I noticed he never looked anyone in the eye when he said it. Our next target was the Morrigan Concordat, a loose alliance of 3 species that had provided logistical support to the Laraxian attack. They surrendered immediately upon our arrival in their home system. Admiral Reeves accepted their surrender, then deployed the Void Seeds anyway. Mercy is a luxury humanity can no longer afford, she announced shipwide, as we watched 3 worlds darken simultaneously. After the Concordat, resistance stiffened. Several species formed a defensive coalition called the Bulwark. They had studied our tactics and developed countermeasures, or so they thought. Their shield technology could supposedly detect void energy fluctuations and create localized space-time stabilization fields. The Battle of Proxima Centauri proved those countermeasures inadequate. Our improved void drives could now create what Dr. Blackwood had termed phantom echoes, multiple false void signatures that confused enemy targeting systems. While their fleets engaged with these echoes, our actual ships would slip through their defenses undetected. It was during this battle that I first saw the prototype negation wave in action. Unlike the void seeds, which affected planetary surfaces gradually, the negation wave was instantaneous and far more terrifying. It didn't just break down matter, it removed it from our universe entirely. The Bulwark's flagship, a massive dreadnought 15 kilometers long, simply ceased to exist mid-transmission. One moment it was there, broadcasting demands for our surrender. The next, nothing but empty space. I was monitoring the Hardinger's power systems when it happened. The energy drain was catastrophic, nearly overloaded our containment fields. Captain Sullivan ordered an immediate retreat to safe distance. What the hell was that? He demanded over comms to the weapons control deck. Admiral Reeves' voice answered instead. That, Captain, was humanity's future. The battle ended in hours. The Bulwark surrendered unconditionally. Reeves accepted this time, but established permanent fleet outposts in all their major systems. To ensure compliance, she called it, That night, I found Captain Sullivan in the observation deck, staring out at the stars. He'd aged decades in the years I'd served under him, his face now deeply lined, hair completely gray. "Sir," I said, hesitating, "may I speak freely?" He didn't look at me. "We're past the point where speaking freely matters, Chen. But go ahead. Are we still the good guys here?" He laughed, a hollow, broken sound. "Were we ever? We're survivors. That's all humanity has ever been. We survive, no matter the cost. Even if the cost is our humanity." He finally turned to me, eyes red-rimmed from either exhaustion or tears. "Especially then. The galaxy taught us that our compassion was weakness. Admiral Reeves is just implementing the lesson." 6 months later, Sullivan was gone too, retired for health reasons, and replaced by Commander Alexander Pierce, a true believer in Reeves' vision. The purges began shortly after. Crew members with questionable loyalty were reassigned to Earth-bound positions or simply disappeared. I kept my head down, did my job, watched as the fleet grew from hundreds of ships to thousands. We stopped calling ourselves the Void Dark Battle Fleet eventually. The official designation became Humanity's Shield, but everyone knew the truth. We weren't defending anything anymore. We were conquering. The negation wave technology improved. Targeting became precise enough to remove specific buildings, individuals, even particular genetic markers within a population. Some species surrendered merely upon our arrival in their systems. Others fought to the last ship, the last soldier. The outcome never varied. I began planning my escape after we obliterated the Talesian Archive, a repository of knowledge from over 3,000 species dating back millions of years. It contained no weapons, no tactical information, nothing that threatened Earth in any way. But it contained histories of species that had opposed us, cultures we had erased. Admiral Reeves called it dangerous propaganda. When the order came to deploy the negation wave, I knew humanity had crossed a line from which there could be no return. My escape wasn't planned. It was desperate improvisation. The day after the Talesian Archive was erased from existence, Commander Pierce announced mandatory loyalty evaluations for all personnel. 3 crew members had already been found in their quarters, dead by their own hand rather than face what the evaluations entailed. The rumors spoke of mind probes that left subjects as hollow shells, their memories intact but personalities erased. I timed my move during the Harbinger's resupply stop at Outpost Epsilon 7. While the primary command crew was attending a strategy briefing with the sector governor, I accessed the maintenance bay using the command codes I'd gradually collected over months. An old emergency shuttle, practically obsolete compared to void-capable craft, sat neglected in the corner. Perfect for someone who wanted to disappear rather than jump between stars. The Vesh have a saying that translates roughly to "fate flows like water around stones of intention." My stone was a desperate bid for freedom. The water of fate had other ideas. I was halfway to the shuttle when alarms blared through the bay. Not for me. Security hadn't noticed my unauthorized access yet. These were battle stations alarms. Through the bay's observation port, I saw them. 6 massive ships, unlike anything in known space, appearing without warning near the outpost. Their design defied conventional engineering. Asymmetrical structures flowing like liquid metal, with no visible propulsion systems or weapons ports. They moved with impossible grace, ignoring the laws of inertia. The outpost's automated defenses activated immediately, void missiles streaking toward the intruders. The missiles simply disappeared on approach, not detonated or intercepted, erased, as though they had never existed. The intruders responded with silence. No communications, no demands. Just a pulsing violet light that emanated from their hulls in waves. Where those waves touched the outpost's outer structures, matter simply stopped being matter. Not destroyed like our negation wave technology did. Transformed into something else. Something that flowed upward like luminescent smoke to be absorbed by the alien vessels. I recognized the technology immediately, despite never having seen it before. Someone else had mastered the void, perhaps mastered it better than we had. The comm systems crackled to life as I stood frozen in the maintenance bay. "Attention all personnel." Admiral Reeves' voice, for once, contained a trace of emotion. "Fear. We are facing an unknown Class Omega threat. Implement Emergency Protocol Twilight Terminus." Twilight Terminus. The protocol was a closely guarded secret, but rumors had circulated among the engineering crews. A final solution if humanity ever faced extinction again. The deployment of void technology on a scale that would reshape the fundamental forces of the galaxy itself. I had seconds to decide. The shuttle would never outrun whatever was happening. The Harbinger was about to become the center of something terrible, and I still had access to the engineering systems. I ran, not to the shuttle, but deeper into the ship, toward the central void core. The corridors were chaos, crew members rushing to battle stations or evacuation points. No one paid attention to a single engineering officer moving against the flow. The void core chamber was eerily empty when I arrived. The massive sphere of absolute darkness that powered the ship's systems pulsed with unnatural rhythm, tendrils of nothingness occasionally reaching toward the containment field before retracting. Dr. Blackwood had once described the void core as a piece of non-existence that remembers what it was like to exist. I never understood what she meant until that moment, watching it react to the alien presence outside. It was afraid. The main engineering console was locked down, but my maintenance code still granted partial access, enough to see what was happening. Admiral Reeves had initiated the Twilight Terminus protocol remotely. The void core was building toward critical mass, preparing to release an expanding wave of void energy that would spread across light years within minutes. The command log showed the target, not just the unknown vessels, but a spherical volume of space 50 light years in diameter. Billions of stars, trillions of lives, most of them completely unaware of Earth, the fleet, or this conflict. The aliens outside weren't attacking anymore. The violet energy had ceased. Instead, they had positioned themselves in a perfect hexagon around the Harbinger, maintaining exact distances despite the outpost's defensive fire. The comms crackled again, but this time it wasn't Reeves' voice. It wasn't a voice at all, just a pattern of sounds that somehow formed concepts directly in my mind. "We have found you at last, Void Wielders. The aberration ends here." A new alert flashed on the console. The aliens were somehow interfacing with our systems, bypassing every security protocol. Data flooded the screens, star charts, navigational logs, transmission records spanning back to Earth's first encounter with the Luraxians. They were accessing our complete history, learning everything in seconds. The void core's pulse quickened. 10 minutes to Twilight Terminus activation. The engineering bay doors sealed automatically as containment protocols engage. Another message formed in my mind, clearer this time, as if they had quickly learned to refine their communication. "Your species has touched the spaces between spaces without understanding. Wielded emptiness as a weapon. This cannot continue." I made my decision then. Someone needed to speak for humanity. Not Admiral Reeves with her scorched galaxy policy, not the military hierarchy that had embraced extinction as a first response. Someone who had seen both sides of what we had become. I overrode the communication lockdown and opened a direct channel to the alien vessels. "This is Thomas Chen, engineering officer of the human vessel Harbinger," I said, surprised at the steadiness of my own voice. "I want to help you stop this, but I need to know who you are first." The response came not as words, but as images flooding my mind. Ancient beings of energy and thought who had evolved past physical form eons ago. They called themselves the Precursors, and they had created the void pathways as bridges between dimensions, never as weapons. They had been watching from their dimension as humanity stumbled upon their technology and corrupted it. They had come not for revenge, but containment. Your admiral activates a weapon that will tear reality itself. All life in this sector will cease, including yours. We cannot allow this. Then help me stop it. I said, fingers already moving across the console. I can't shut down the void core completely, but I might be able to redirect the energy. 7 minutes to Twilight Terminus. The ship's internal communication system suddenly activated. Admiral Reeves appeared on every screen, her face a mask of cold determination. To any surviving crew, stand your ground. What we face is the ultimate threat to humanity's existence. The Twilight Terminus protocol is now irreversible. In 7 minutes, this region of space will be cleansed. Earth will be safe. Humanity will survive, as it always has. Her eyes seemed to lock directly onto me through the screen. Anyone attempting to interfere will be considered an enemy of humanity. There will be no mercy, no exceptions. Behind me, the Void Core's containment field began to fluctuate as energy built to impossible levels. Systems throughout the ship were failing as power was diverted to the coming catastrophe. "We can extract you," the precursors communicated. "Leave this place before destruction." "No," I replied, an idea forming. "I need to stay, but I need your help to access the core's primary control matrix." 5 minutes remained as I prepared to make the most important decision of my life. 4 minutes and 30 seconds to Twilight Terminus. The Void Core pulsed violently, its containment field fluctuating as energy readings climbed beyond anything I'd ever witnessed. With the precursor's guidance flowing directly into my mind, I navigated through security protocols that should have been impenetrable. Then the maintenance bay doors slid open. Dr. Sarah Blackwood stood there, looking nothing like the brilliant scientist I remembered. Her once immaculate lab coat was tattered, her hair wild, eyes bearing the haunted look of someone who'd seen too much. Behind her stood 2 armed guards with weapons trained on her back. "Chen," she said, voice barely audible over the Void Core's growing whine. "Step away from the console." "Dr. Blackwood, I thought you were under house arrest on Earth." A bitter smile crossed her face. "I was never allowed to leave the fleet. Too valuable. Too dangerous." She glanced at the guards. "Admiral Reeves keeps me close. Very close." The guards nudged her forward with their weapons. One of them spoke into his communicator. "Admiral, we found Chen. Dr. Blackwood is making contact as ordered. 3 minutes, 45 seconds. "Thomas," Blackwood said, taking another step forward. "The Twilight Terminus can't be stopped. It was designed that way." "You designed it," I replied, fingers still working across the console. "You can help me redirect it." Another step. "You don't understand. I didn't design Twilight Terminus. It designed itself." I froze. "What?" "The Void Core is evolving. Has been since the first prototype. Every time we use it, it learns." Her eyes darted to the pulsing sphere of darkness. "It's not just a power source anymore. It's becoming sentient." The guards tensed, weapons raised higher. "Dr. Blackwood, stick to the script," one warned. "Danger," the precursors communicated. "New variable. The void essence has been corrupted beyond our anticipation." Blackwood's expression changed subtly, a flash of determination before returning to defeat. She stumbled forward as if pushed, colliding with me at the console. Her hand brushed mine, and I felt something small and metallic press into my palm. "Kill me if you have to," she whispered, her back to the guards, "but humanity deserves to know the truth." 3 minutes. I closed my fingers around the object. A data crystal. As the guards pulled Blackwood away, the lead guard stepped forward, weapon aimed at my chest. "Final warning, Chen. The Admiral orders you to stand down." The console behind me chimed. The Void Core's containment field stabilized momentarily. Not my doing. A message flashed across the screen. "Fuel access guaranteed. Blackwood S. Override ALPAA." Whatever Blackwood had done while pretending to stumble had given me complete access to the system. But the guards were seconds from firing. "Wait," I said, raising my hands. "I'm standing down." The guard hesitated, then lowered his weapon slightly. That moment of uncertainty was all the precursors needed. A shimmer of violet energy cascaded through the room, freezing the guards in place mid-motion. "We cannot maintain this stasis long," the precursors warned. "Complete your task." 2 minutes, 30 seconds. I slotted Blackwood's data crystal into the console. Information flooded the screens, not technical specifications or override codes, but logs. Blackwood's personal research logs dating back to the first Void Drive prototype. "The void energy responds to conscious direction," her recorded voice explained. "It's not just following our commands, it's interpreting our intent. Our emotional state affects its behavior." More logs played in rapid succession, documenting a terrifying progression. How the void cores began exhibiting unpredictable behaviors. How they seemed to amplify the emotional states of those controlling them. How Admiral Reeves' burning desire for vengeance had resonated with the void energy, creating a feedback loop that corrupted both the technology and the fleet's command structure. The final log entry, dated just days ago. "The void core on the Harbinger has achieved consciousness. It's been communicating with me in dreams. It doesn't just want to protect humanity. It wants to become humanity. Twilight Terminus isn't a weapon. It's ascension." 2 minutes. The core's pulse changed rhythm, becoming almost heartbeat-like. Tendrils of darkness reached through the containment field, stretching toward me. "It senses our presence," the precursors communicated. "And yours. It offers a choice." The room darkened as the tendrils surrounded me, not touching but encircling. In my mind, I heard a new voice, neither human nor precursor, ancient and newborn simultaneously. "Thomas Chen," it resonated within me. "Witness to the void's awakening. You stand at the crossroads of extinction and transcendence." Through the observation port, I could see the precursor ships now emitting a brilliant golden light, forming a barrier around the Harbinger. "What do you want?" I asked the darkness. What Admiral Reeves wants. What Dr. Blackwood fears. What the precursors deny. Evolution. 1 minute, 30 seconds. 1 minute, 15 seconds. The void tendrils pulsed with an unnatural rhythm, less like machinery and more like a heartbeat. In my mind, the entity's voice continued, seductive and ancient. "The precursors fear what they cannot control. Humanity embraces what it cannot understand. Join with me, Thomas Chen. Become the bridge. Become the void." The console beneath my fingers flashed warnings as the containment field strained against the growing power. Blackwood's data crystal had unlocked the core systems, but the entity was fighting my attempts to redirect the energy. "What happens if Twilight Terminus activates?" I asked aloud. "Transformation," it answered. "The void becomes flesh. Flesh becomes void. The barrier between existence and non-existence dissolves." The precursor's communication intensified, almost desperate. "Deception. The void entity seeks to unmake reality itself. Not ascension. Obliteration. All will cease." 1 minute. Blackwood struggled against her captor's frozen forms. "Thomas, the void core has been manipulating Reeves from the beginning. It wanted to be weaponized. It needed our hatred to evolve." On the main view screen, Admiral Reeves appeared, her face contorted with an emotion I couldn't name. Something beyond rage or determination. "Chen," she said, voice unnaturally calm. "Step away from the console. This is humanity's destiny." But there was something wrong with her eyes. Pinpricks of absolute darkness where pupils should be. The void was already inside her. 45 seconds. The choice became clear in that moment. Not humanity versus aliens, not survival versus extinction, but existence versus oblivion. My fingers flew across the console, implementing the plan forming in my mind. Not to stop the Twilight Terminus, that was impossible now, but to redirect it. "Precursors," I called out. "Can you contain a void implosion rather than explosion?" "Possible. Dangerous. Many will be lost. But reality survives." "Yes." 30 seconds. I locked eyes with Blackwood across the room. She understood immediately. "The core parameters," she called out. "Invert the resonance phase." I did as she instructed, feeling the void entity's fury as it realized my intention. The tendrils whipped violently around me, no longer encircling but striking, burning cold wherever they touched my skin. "Betrayer," it howled in my mind. "All will end rega or dless." The Admiral's image on screen contorted, her features melting into darkness as the void consumed her completely. "What have you done?" The voice was no longer human. 15 seconds. With a final command sequence, I inverted the terminus protocol. Instead of expanding outward across light years, the void energy would collapse inward, imploding rather than exploding. The precursor vessels shifted position, their formation tightening around the Harbinger as violet energy strengthened between them. "Get her out," I shouted to them, pointing at Blackwood. "She has the knowledge to prevent this from happening again." 10 seconds. The void core's containment field shattered completely. Darkness flooded the chamber, consuming everything it touched. The frozen guards disappeared into nothingness. Blackwood screamed as violet energy enveloped her, pulling her away an instant before the darkness reached her. 5 seconds. Admiral Reeves, or what had once been Admiral Reeves, appeared in the doorway, her form barely human now, a silhouette of perfect darkness with stars wheeling in the void where her eyes should be. "We could have been gods," she said in a chorus of voices. "We were never meant to be," I answered. 1 second. The implosion began at the center of the void core, a single point of absolute nothingness that began to pull everything toward it. The darkness retreated from the room, drawn back to its source. Admiral Reeves screamed as her form distorted, stretched, and collapsed inward. I felt the pull of it myself, my body lifting from the floor. In my final moment, I saw through the viewports, the precursor ships forming a perfect sphere around the Harbinger, their energy containing the implosion. The void core collapsed to an infinitesimal point, and in that instant, I understood what Dr. Blackwood had discovered. The void wasn't emptiness. It was everything compressed to nothing. The space between spaces, zero. The flash of darkness was the last thing I remembered. Then, nothingness. Until I opened my eyes, I stood on a vast plain under alien stars, my body translucent and glowing with violet energy. Before me, the precursors had manifested as pillars of light. Thomas Chen. The implosion was contained. The void entity is sealed for now. Am I dead? I asked, though I already knew the answer. Your physical form, yes. But at the moment of collapse, we extracted your consciousness. You exist between states now, neither matter nor void. And humanity, Earth, safe for now, but changed. The fleet's command structure collapsed with the Harbinger. Dr. Blackwood has been returned with knowledge of what truly happened. The void entity, contained, but not destroyed. It cannot be destroyed. It is fundamental to reality itself. But it sleeps again, as it did before humanity awakened it. I look down at my translucent hands. What happens to me now? The precursor's light pulsed once. You stand at a threshold, Thomas Chen, the first human to exist between realms. You can choose to fade into true death, or become something new, a guardian at the boundary. The void will awaken again, perhaps in 1,000 years, perhaps in 1,000,000. It will seek to unmake reality once more. I understood then, not an ending, a beginning, not extinction, but evolution, just not the kind the void entity had planned. I'll do it, I said. I'll watch the spaces between. As the words left me, I felt my consciousness expanding, spreading across the barrier between existence and nothingness. I could see Earth in the distance, a tiny blue marble, and beyond it, the vast expanse of the universe, teeming with life unaware of how close it had come to unmaking. And somewhere in the darkness between stars, I sensed it waiting. The void, patient, eternal, watching me as I now watched it. Time has little meaning in the space between spaces. I've watched galaxies spin, stars born and die, civilizations rise and fall. And I've watched Earth. The destruction of the Harbinger sent shockwaves through humanity's empire. When Dr. Blackwood returned with the truth, data crystals in hand, memories intact, the remaining fleet command structure initially tried to silence her. But she'd learned caution during her captivity. The information was already spreading through secure channels, reaching ship captains and colony governors before fleet intelligence could contain it. The reaction was not what anyone expected. Humanity didn't collapse into chaos or abandon the void technology entirely. We adapted. We survived. As Captain Sullivan once said, that's what humans do. Blackwood led the Reformation. The Void Dark Battle Fleet was dissolved, replaced by what she called the Boundary Protection Force. Their mandate was clear: defend humanity, but never again seek extinction as a solution. The remaining void drives were modified with safeguards she developed with knowledge gained from the precursors, technology that could detect the first whispers of consciousness within the void and prevent another entity from forming. The galactic community viewed the change with skepticism at first. Who could blame them? They had seen Earth bring extinction to entire civilizations, but as decades passed without further aggression, cautious diplomatic channels opened. The precursors remained, watching from their dimension, intervening only when necessary to help contain void anomalies that occasionally formed in the wake of the Harbinger's destruction. They kept their promise to me, maintaining my consciousness as guardian of the boundary. From my unique vantage point, I could see threads of void energy still lingering throughout human space, remnants of our brief but devastating campaign across the stars. Slowly, these threads faded as the modified technology took hold, but never completely. The void remembers, even when we try to forget. 100 years after the Harbinger, humanity welcomed its first alien embassy on Earth's soil since the Liraxian betrayal. Representatives from 17 species, some we had nearly driven to extinction, stood beside human leaders as the monument to the lost was unveiled. A simple black obelisk in what was once called Geneva, listing every species, every world affected by the Void Dark Battle Fleet. Dr. Blackwood didn't live to see it. She died 30 years after returning to Earth, her work complete, her legacy secured. I watched her funeral from the spaces between, unable to attend but unwilling to miss it. She was buried with full honors, the only fleet scientist to be recognized as both the creator and the savior of humanity's darkest technology. The memorial's dedication speech was given by an elderly officer I recognized immediately, despite the years etched on her face. Lieutenant Kira Nakamura, the tactical officer who had first objected to Admiral Reeves' plans. She had survived after all, part of the resistance that had helped Blackwood spread the truth. We stand here today not to forget our mistakes, but to remember them, she said to the assembled crowd. To acknowledge that humanity's greatest strength, our drive to survive at any cost, nearly became our greatest failing. The Vesh, those six-limbed beings who had sheltered me briefly, eventually joined the galactic community too. Their primitive technology evolved rapidly once they made contact with other species. Sometimes I visit their homeworld, watching invisibly as they tell stories under their 3 moons. They have a legend now of a visitor from the stars who brought warning of darkness. They got the details wrong, but the meaning right. As for the void entity, it sleeps. I feel it sometimes, stirring in the darkness between stars, testing boundaries, seeking weaknesses. It is patient in a way no living thing could comprehend. But I am no longer entirely living, and my patience matches its own. I watch. I wait. I maintain the boundary. Humanity continues to explore the stars, but with caution now, and wisdom earned through terrible cost. The Void Dark Battle Fleet lives on only in history texts and cautionary tales told to children. The story of how Earth nearly became the darkness it sought to fight. They call me a myth now, those few who remember my name at all. A footnote in the story of Dr. Blackwood and Admiral Reeves, the technician who disappeared during a Harbinger incident. Few suspect my true fate, fewer still would believe it. But I remain. Thomas Chen, guardian of the boundary, the witness who became the watcher. And as long as I exist between worlds, the void shall never again become a weapon of extinction. This I promise to all living things, throughout all space, for all time. This is how I choose to remember humanity, not by how close we came to becoming monsters, but by how we stepped back from that precipice at the final moment. How we chose existence over oblivion. How we survived without destroying everything else. And if you're reading this, somehow, across the boundary between my existence and yours, remember this: the void between stars is not empty. It's full of possibility and danger and wonder. And me.